All right, good morning, everyone. For the record, it is January 27th, 2022. This is our weekly ongoing business development advisor training. And now I will reveal what we're going to be talking about today. And Debbie, you can tell me if this actually fulfills one of the things that you and Jake have been talking about. But what we're going to talk about today is different agencies and their positives and their negatives. What we're going to be doing is creating business avatars. So our whole aspect of what we're focusing on and doing is, of course, we talk to agents all the time. There's plenty of places that we talk to, and there's a large conglomerate of agents that work at certain places. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a list of those places. We're going to have a short discussion with each of them. And we're not going to get through everyone today, but we're going to try and hit some highlights. And what I want everyone to do is take notes on some of the conversations that we, like as a creating a business avatar, their positive, their negatives, the problems that they're having, and then really the solutions that we have. Is what we're going to be talking about, so that when you run into XYZ agent, you're going to know a conversation that you can have with them that would more than likely be able to bring them on and earn their contract, basically, or get to a different place. So let's see. Well, Jason.
Nathan, how you doing, bud?
It's good to see you.
Is it really?
It really is, actually. All joking aside, it is nice to see you.
You missed me, huh?
I did. In fact, I'm a little jealous, though. I wasn't invited to the poker game.
Well, when Jeff goes all in on a pair of twos, why would I invite anybody else to the game? I mean,
that's fair enough. I mean, I would want some of that too. Yeah, is it just you two play and you just take his money, Jason?
Pretty much. That's what I do for a living. That's you know, it's how I live my life of luxury.
Well, we're going to jump into what we're going to be doing today. Oh, look, I get to see everyone's face.
What's up, David? How you doing, bud?
Hi.
Jake's here too, so you can say hi to Jake.
Hi, Jason. Hi, everyone.
Really?
What's up, Jake? How you doing?
How you doing?
All right. As I said, our focus, we're going to go through people. So let's talk about some of the, I'm going to ask you first, and I have a list of people, but are there any right now big organizations or people that you're talking to when you call out, you're like, oh, I'm talking to this agent, this type of agent multiple times? What are you, and we're talking about companies. So for example, New York Life, State Farm, Northwestern Mutual Agents, Primerica, World Financial Group. Is there anybody that you guys want to focus on first of agents that you're either targeting or talking to on a regular basis? What names come out?
I had a friend who from church who works at State Farm, and I guess she's coming up on 2 or 3 years. So I thought I might develop an approach to her at some point.
There we go. So let's start with State Farm. We can do this one really quickly. So State Farm, the positives, of course, is that it is a singular product line, which makes it very easy for the agent to understand and sell. There usually is some kind of base pay. There is lots of structure. There's lots of training. And so those are some of the positives. You know, that's kind of the positives of a lot of, in essence, captive agency models. The other positive is that they have multiple, they do multiple product lines. So they have access to, of course, property and casualty is their main focus. But then they do have life insurance. They do have some financial products. They do some stuff with banks as well and credit cards that the agent gets paid off of as well. There's a few other product lines that they do. off the top of my head. I don't know if anybody else knows any of the other product lines. I don't think they do health insurance and things like that. But on the negative side, they don't own their book of business. In the context of that, they can sell it on the open market. They have to sell back to State Farm. And this can be something that you verify and have a discussion with, but I know that at one point they changed the rulings where you can actually pass off, like it used to be where you can pass off the book of business to and will it to somebody, next generation, someone that wanted to take over. I don't think you can do that anymore with the new rules that they placed on benefits and things like that. Oh, going back to the positives, benefits as well. So 401k, health insurance, and things like that. Negatives though, don't own book of business. I don't believe you can will it. They are very captive, meaning that they have a non-solicit. So if they do decide to leave at any point, their non-solicit, I believe, is for a year. Now, most places don't end up actually doing filing for a lawsuit for non-solicits and things like that, unless you have a big book of business and you try to take everyone in the first year. But non-solicit for the first year, they are most of them are deathly afraid to do anything outside of State Farm. There's no what's called first right of refusal or things like that. If you write business outside of State Farm and they catch you, they will more than likely terminate you. So if State Farm doesn't have a product or it's not a good fit, then usually it's just like it's literally a referral outside to somebody else if they have that relationship. But a lot of them are even leery about that just because of how captive State Farm is. Sorry,
Nathan?
Yes.
If they fire you and let you go, does that non-compete, non-solicit still hold weight?
Yes.
Okay.
They are going to try and hold on to that business. We've moved a couple people from State Farm into the independent channel, but that's the other thing is with marketing and things like that, it has to be approved through State Farm. There's lots of compliance that goes along with this. And you are by no means an independent agent. So that associates then some problems, and problems being on that side of not having autonomy. So not being able to make your own marketing decisions and things like that. Getting approval for everything, problems being not truly having ownership of that book of business. So here's our solutions. Number one, and the biggest question that and this will apply to almost all captive agencies, is asking the question, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, have you ever thought about going to the independent channel? Or you could say independent channel or starting your own agency. Start the conversation with an open-ended question and see what they respond back. That is because the number one solution that we are going to have for them is that we are going to be able to show them a path to become a truly independent agency. So that's number one. Number two is I'm going to push back on you guys. I mean, with everything that we just said, are there any other questions or things or solutions that we have on our end that is going to help them make that decision?
Well, in my mind, all of the negatives we provide a solution for that can come into a question if they at least start to have the question, if they at least start to have the conversation. All right, you've thought about being independent. Well, if you're still leery, are you prepared to not be able to serve all your clients because of your limited product line and not be able to shop out? Because if you'd like to better serve your clients, we can provide access to that. Are you prepared if you ever make a decision?
Let's stop on that one for real quick. So
maybe you could repeat it because he was kind of off to the side.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So what Jake was talking about is one of the major things with captive agencies is going to apply for most of them, especially agencies that are PNC focused, is if this agency gets 10 clients, and they try to get all 10 clients approved, well, they may only earn 2 or 3 of that clients' businesses, because either the price is too high or the risk is too much. The State Farm doesn't want that risk. One of the largest advantages and solutions within the independent channel, especially for a P&C agent, is that if they move from just offering State Farm to the independent channel, where they have access to 30, 40 different carriers that they can access and write P&C business with, then they're going to, instead of 2 or 3 clients, maybe they get 6 or 7 clients. So that's a huge difference. Of the question that Jake is asking basically is, so David, what's this person's first name?
What is her name?
We'll call her Susan.
Patty.
Patty, okay.
Patty, yes.
So Patty, I know you've been there for a couple of years. Right now, how many clients do you have to turn away because State Farm isn't going to take the risk, or the price is too high for auto and home insurance? So there's your question. And then what she's going to most likely say is, oh, I mean, God, we have to turn away lots of clients because, you know, we're just not a good fit, or State Farm doesn't want the risk, or the price is too high. Well, one of the things in the independent channel that we can show you, Patty, is that if you move to the independent channel, you would be able to approve more of those clients and be more competitive in more situations because of the amount of carriers that we can give you access to. Is that something that you would be interested in looking more at? So there's your lead in on that side. The other one, very super simply, and this is a very direct claim, is Patty, if you were to move from and do all the activity that you're doing within State Farm and move to the independent channel, I can practically guarantee you that you doing the same amount of work over that same amount of time, you would be making anywhere between 2 to 3 times more than what you're making right now at State Farm.
You say, well, how could I do that?
We would love to show you. Let's set up another meeting to have a further conversation. But because some of the other things that happen, especially within State Farm, so if here's another way to capture them, and I'm going to spend 2 more minutes on this. We're going to move to another organization, but State Farm, do you want to guess what State Farm is paying their agents on life insurance?
35%.
35%. That would be a blessing for them.
Bad, huh?
Oh, it's the worst that I've ever seen.
15, 10,
10%.
wow.
Yeah, a lot of them are only getting 10% on life insurance. So one of the agencies that we brought over from State Farm that went independent, he's doing 50,000 hours of life insurance with State Farm every single year. Making 5,000 hours off that. So literally all we did is we moved him to the independent channel. We gave him all the other tools and stuff like that. But just in life insurance alone, he, he replaced and wrote more of his life insurance with us the next year. I mean, he made $45,000 just from rewriting that 50,000. And he technically did more than that because he had better prices and better products. So that's something very directly that you can talk about with agents as well, and talking about that aspect. Now, if they're not the agency owner, then the agency owner is determining how much to pay their agents. Some agents may get nothing for writing life insurance. If you're just like a sub agent or CSR, things like that. But all right, so State Farm, there's other nuances and things we can go down. We can spend a lot of time on them. I don't want to spend tons on each organization, but does that make sense?
Yeah, can I get Jake's opinion on State Farm, please?
I would say that their dress code is superior to most, but their product line is a bit sketchy.
Thank you, Jake from State Farm.
You're welcome.
That was literally, you could use that as well. So we have Jake from State Farm, and he went and left State Farm and he went independent. Okay.
He no longer wears just
He
khakis.
no longer just wears khakis. There you go. All right, so that's State Farm. Any other organizations that anybody is dealing with that, I want to hear from you guys first before I got on a list of other people. No one else that anybody's talking to?
AmFam.
AmFam. So is anyone familiar with AmFam?
American Family.
Yeah. So they're going to be closer to State Farm than most other places. So they're like a State Farm. AmFam, some of those agents will, like, it's not as captive, so they're not as afraid to kind of do referrals and pass off business. I'm not as familiar with AmFam. One of the terminologies that you're looking for is what's called first right of refusal. If any agency has the terminology built within their contract, and you can ask the agent and just say, hey, do you know if if AmFam, if whatever you're at, has written their contract, is it first right of refusal, or are you guys not able to write any business outside of where you're at? First right of refusal, does everyone know what it means?
No, but I'll look it up.
It means if you work with a carrier and they have a product and you have a prospect for that product, you have to allow them to quote it first. And if their quote doesn't work, or they don't want to do it, then you can go to somebody else.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
That
remember.
is exactly it. So there's quite a few places that have first right of refusal. So to give you guys a short list, so Farmers has first right of refusal. Northwestern Mutual has first right of refusal. New York Life has first right of refusal. Those are the places that I know off the top of my head. There's going to be a few others, but that's important to note, because those are people that you can work with, and you're not asking if they want to go independent. You're just going to support them where they're at and say, hey, can we be your outlet for that business that such and such place is not going to take? But that's also a good question, that if you're running into any organization and you're not familiar, it's a good terminology to be able to say, hey, AmFam, do you know, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, if AmFam has first right of refusal, or can you guys just not write anything outside of AmFam? Because that's an open conversation. Because if they can, then they can write that business, like, as long as they go through proper channels and get that refusal, or AmFam does not do any of that business, then they can get contracted with our carriers and write that business whenever they can't do it there. So there's some good options for that.
That's if they don't have right of refusal, then they can do it. If they do have right of refusal.
If they do have right of refusal. If they do. So if they have the first right of refusal, then they can go off and get contracted and write that business if that place does not use it.
Okay.
Or does not carry that risk, or does not carry that product. So for example, Farmers, they don't do Medicare. They don't do health insurance. So that's an easy in. There's risks that Farmers doesn't take, even on the life insurance side. So you can be an outlet for those risks that Farmers doesn't take. Okay. But yeah, AmFam is going to be closer to State Farm. So anybody else before I go through other lists? Any other places that you guys are dealing with? Okay. So I'm gonna give a few targets of interesting places that you guys can actually target and that we do business with and through. So first one is Northwestern Mutual. We have one of our one of our other agencies out in California that we work with, about 70–80% of their entire business comes from Northwestern Mutual agents. Reason being is because Northwestern Mutual has first right of refusal. Northwestern Mutual is extremely conservative. And they also have a very limited product line. So one thing with Northwestern Mutual agents, I mean, they don't do anything within the IUL space. The other thing with Northwestern Mutual agents is they don't do almost, their annuities are terrible. So they don't really have a fixed indexed annuity. So because of the first right of refusal, those Northwestern Mutual agents can do that business outside of Northwestern Mutual. The biggest one being, and this is where most of the business comes from with this agency out in California, is on risks that Northwestern Mutual does not take. There's a lot of them. So they have some, there's some, and typically they're doing, a lot of the agencies that we're dealing with have larger case sizes, and they can't get approved through their channels. So they look for other outlets so that they can get their client approved, and they can, they get contracted with the carrier and they write that business themselves. You just got to be, show them that you can be the one to do that. So having that conversation with Northwestern Mutual Agency, do you have, ask them that simple question right now, do you have someone that you work with for cases that, or risks that Northwestern Mutual does not take? They say no, then, well, can we be that outlet? Next time, do you have a case right now that you're working on that I can run a quote for, a risk that's really tough that you don't have right now? Would love to have that conversation.
Has that agency out in California come to find that there are specific carriers that they've had a lot of traction with offering Northwestern Mutual because of that? Yeah, so some of the carriers on that list are, there's some agents at Northwestern Mutual that do want to do the IUL business. So any carrier that does that, AIG Partners Group, things like that. Other carriers that are on that list are places like Mutual of Omaha. Because Mutual of Omaha, very more liberal underwriting. They have a simplified issue product line. So there are areas that, that don't get approved through Northwestern Mutual that they can flip over to Mutual of Omaha to get the approval for. And then the third category, they do most of their business in life insurance, but the third category is just in the annuity field. If you can capture that conversation, that relationship, and there's going to be plenty of scenarios where our annuities that we have access to are going to be much more better than what Northwestern Mutual has, just bar none. So that would be a third area. So with the IULs, like you're saying, AIG Partners Group, you said Mutual of Omaha, then on the annuity side, it could probably be like Ameritas or Global Atlantic.
Global Atlantic, Athene, any of them, okay. Allianz.
Now with Allianz, now since they don't have a lot of since they don't have a lot of annuity options, isn't Allianz one of those like preferred people or preferred carriers that you have to have already done business? So wouldn't Allianz be hard?
No, it's because most of them are going to be securities licensed.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the requirements for the preferred contract.
Okay.
So what Jake is referencing, Allianz has on their annuity chassis to get access to their annuities. It's called a preferred contract. You either have to have done $250,000 of annuities in the past year and prove it, have a securities license, or be a CPA. So if you have any of those three requirements, then you can get the preferred contract. If you don't, then they won't give you the contract. So all Northwestern Mutual agents can fulfill those requirements. Gotcha. Any questions on Northwestern Mutual? they are a good target to have a conversation with. Other one on that list that's kind of like that is New York Life. And the specific thing that I'm going to talk about with New York Life agents. So after 5 years, does anyone know what happens to their contract? So if you make it past 5 years, thank you, Jason. That was a great Vanna White moment. So I really don't understand why you unmuted yourself to do that. Like there's still.
I was gonna say something, but then I decided not to. So
Fair enough.
I'm trying to keep this professional for you, Nathan.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is recorded. People will be watching this afterwards.
They become less captive or not captive at all. Or...
That you're actually absolutely right. So after the 5th year, they can do whatever they want with their contract. They can get other carriers. They're released from being kind of a captive agent. They still have New York Life as their the main carrier, but New York Life after the 5th year does not care if you go get contracted with 50 other carriers and write other business.
Can I ask why? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know the why.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
It's great. I mean,
I can make assumptions, but the idea being is that after 5 years, you've written enough business with New York Life to fulfill all the requirements. I mean, you're going to have it's kind of what, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, like what Thrivent has done with some of their top agencies.
You go independent.
Exactly, because the independent channel gets filled with all the captive agents and agencies that want to make more money, have more autonomy, be able to do it themselves and things like that. And so captive agencies are right now trying to figure out more ways to keep their best talent. And one of the easiest ways to do that is say, hey, stay with us, but we'll let you do what you want to do as well. So that you get the best of both of those worlds. And that's what's happening a lot in the industry. So with New York Life, after the 5th year, if you see anybody on LinkedIn or any organization, like they've been around for longer than 5 years, then you're treating them as an independent agent and just asking them, I know you write New York Life and that's your main focus, but I mean, do you run into scenarios that you don't have a good match for your client, Mr. or Mrs. Agent? And have that open-ended question, because those are great agents to be able to capture as well. And you can even capture the ones that are at that 4th or even 3rd year and start building that relationship with them, because they still have first right of refusal concept. So you can start building that relationship with them, but it is after the 5th year, doesn't matter. So New York Life agents are good people to target as well on that side.
now in these areas, is it better? I mean, is it more likely to be successful to try to talk to the head of the agency or individual agents? Because I feel like this is a slightly different, they came from captivity where like they have some form of loyalty. I mean, unless they're really upset, they have some form of loyalty to something.
Not necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
agents are easier to talk to because there's less red tape.
Okay.
Because they have that autonomy, they can fill that right away. Agency owners would be great to talk to.
Oh, right.
And if you can get them, wonderful. But you're going to run into more hurdles right away.
Okay.
Talking to an agent, a New York Life agency owner. All right, so I want to flip over real quick to places like Primerica, because there's a lot of them. They're everywhere. Termites.
Shouldn't talk about
Jason
that,
raised
right?
an eyebrow. So Primerica agents, the reason I want to talk about them is because they have the largest distribution force, bar none. They have over 100,000 licensed agents. There's not a single organization that has more licensed agents than Primerica. So I mean, going through some positive negatives. Well, let me ask you guys, because Primerica, everyone, who here doesn't know about Primerica?
I mean,
That would be
I
me.
know the name, but
Right, I know the name.
What
No,
would
I
you
know.
say, Debbie?
I said I don't know anything about them, but
You
I
don't
can
know-
research it.
Gotcha. I love that. I think that's been your answer to everything. I'm going to research it.
Hey, I learned that from my child, right? Google it, Mom.
Yeah, there you go. So Primerica is a network marketing company within financial services. They only sell, well, in the life insurance field, they only sell term insurance. They do not sell any permanent life insurance whatsoever. They are captive. They sign a contract. They are what's called a license-only agent. They do not own their book of business. They do sign a non-solicit. They start off with extremely low compensation. Their compensation levels that they start off with as a new agent is 25%. You can get much higher than that afterwards. Their structure is built off of recruiting mainly. Of course, it requires that production is being done, but you can't achieve higher levels without doing recruiting.
can or cannot?
Cannot.
Okay.
So, knowing some of those issues and some of the things that are going on there, is then coming up with the solutions for them. So number one, and this sometimes may be hard because they are taught that all permanent life insurance is practically evil. But if you can ask that open-ended question, and with all of your education and knowledge, being able to say, hey, have you ever thought about why permanent life insurance exists? And see what they say. But if you can get them to have an open conversation and show them the light that permanent life insurance does fit within the insurance world, then your next question is, well, if you now think that permanent life insurance does have some sort of fit, and it could be as simple as selling a final expense policy or selling a children's whole life policy, whatever it is, you convince them of that, then the next question that you're asking is, well, if you now believe that, for you to continue your journey in the insurance field, do you think you can stay at Primerica forever then? And they're going to have to say no, because Primerica doesn't offer permanent life insurance. So that means if they run into a client that permanent life insurance is a fit for, if you can create any scenario, one scenario that permanent life insurance fits, then they have to conclude that they at some point will have to leave Primerica. So that's one area. You can also, if they're money hungry, you can talk to them about compensation, because a lot of them are going to be way below street level. And you can say, great, you know what? Hey, I don't want to get in the way of you selling term. Primerica term, it's good. I can give you more competitive term carriers than what you have now at much higher compensation. And that's going to be much better for the client. Because you can take someone that has as a 50% contract and give them any one of the carriers that we have, and they'll be at 80, 90, 100% day one. So if they're money hungry, you can just talk about compensation. Now, for them to do anything with us, they will have to leave Primerica.
What is the penalty to them of that?
Penalty for what?
For leaving Primerica? Is there anything outside of just losing your book?
Yeah, you just can't solicit your book for a year.
Got it.
Now, like I said, because all of the business that they do for the most part is through relationships and warm market, there's a myriad of ways that you can get around the non-solicit. Because as long as the client contacts the agent first, then that works around the non-solicit. All the non-solicit says is that the agent cannot contact the client first.
Okay.
But if you have a relationship with them, then they're gonna, there's the only way that gets found out anyways is if the client is willing to testify
Sure.
and basically say that, yes, this person solicited me while under a contract, and that so very rarely happens.
Sure. So can I ask a little bit about Prime America, or is this gonna take us?
You
off
got a
topic?
couple minutes.
Well, so can you expound a little bit? And I think it'd be beneficial to understand, like, because you came from Prime America, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Can you expound a little bit as to what you mean that they're taught that permanent life insurance is pretty much all but evil? Like, in what way? What is, in a nutshell? I don't want this to be whatever a huge thing. In a
Yeah.
nutshell, though, why are they, or what are they told that's so wrong with permanent as to only doing term?
Does anyone else want to answer that?
We love Dave Ramsey.
Well, rather I would say the
Usually
inverse. Dave
costs
Ramsey-
embedded in permanent insurance are excessive, and that you could do something more beneficial to yourself with that money than paying it to an insurer.
there,
That's the fundamental thing that they say.
yeah, that what
It has
David
a
says,
number
right?
of flaws in it, but
Yes, but the fundamental thing is what David said is exactly that, is that their belief is that your insurance and your investments should be separate always. And what they think about cash value life insurance, whether it be whole life, universal life, variable universal life, index universal life, is because it has a cash value component, that cash value should be within an investment, and that you should only be buying pure insurance and never a permanent policy just because of the expenses and the things that go along with it. That is their basic belief.
So then what is, for an individual like myself,
Mhm.
who doesn't have the glorious beaming wealth of knowledge that you do, what is the, in a nutshell, way to combat that belief? What is the counterpart that, if you can talk through it, that will sway them?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna push back on everyone here real quick, asking the question, what is a question that you can ask someone that believes only in term insurance that would lead down the path of them understanding, oh, permanent life insurance actually does fit? What would someone to say, what would one of you say to, I only sell term insurance and I will never sell a permanent life insurance policy?
everybody dies. So temporary insurance is kind of for temporary risk. So just fundamentally, you need to protect yourself against the risk when you ultimately die, and the risk to your loved ones. And permanent insurance provides a way of doing that. Term insurance becomes more and more expensive the closer and closer you get to dying when you need to use it. That's another consideration of it. And then the cash value of term insurance provides certain flexibility, being your own banker, WBC type stuff that you can do too. You have to simplify what those concepts are, but it provides more flexibility just having
And
term insurance.
I will say with what David said, and those are all great points. With someone from Primerica, I would highly recommend, don't go down the path of maximally funded life insurance or be your own banker stuff with them.
Okay.
I wouldn't start there.
Yeah.
Because that is such a, there's so much nuance to it, and you have to explain so much to them to even get them to understand it. It is a waste of time to that much education. There's easier paths that you talked about, David, that you can take first before you get there.
And so what would that
So
easier path be?
One of the ones that I've always used is just talking about estate planning.
Okay.
So are you saying, Mr. Primerica, Mrs. Primerica agent, that permanent life insurance does not fit at all, or is not the best vehicle to pass on wealth from one generation to the next? Is that what you're telling me? And they're going to try and backpedal and stuff like that. So let me give you a scenario. So are you saying, like, I have a semi-wealthier client, and they want to make sure that their heirs have money and stuff like that. And the best way to do that they've determined is through life insurance, because life insurance is tax-free. So they already have an estate, they have $2 million, let's say. That estate right now is in, most of it's in pre-tax dollars, which means that when it gets passed on, that the beneficiaries are going to have to pay taxes on that money. So what most clients like this do is they then purchase life insurance to take care of the taxes of the money that their beneficiaries are going to have to pay. And it is considered widely accepted by everybody out there, except for Primericans, that life insurance is the most efficient way to do that. Can you see that as a scenario that is a possibility?
No, Mr. Insurance Man, why wouldn't they just do an annuity?
The annuity has the same thing. It still creates the same problem. When that gets passed off, the beneficiaries are going to have to pay the taxes on that money. Life insurance, that money can be passed off 100% tax-free. Are you saying that is not a better option than doing anything else that you're talking about? And that's the one scenario that you can create.
Okay.
But like I said, so I know that one of their rebuttals is going to be on that side, and we're going to spend 3 more minutes on this.
Well, let me express this. I can't knock term insurance because we do use it and it does have its place.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, term is a liability. Permanent insurance is an asset. Which one do you prefer? Do you like to have a liability or do you like to have an asset? Now, let me explain why it is an asset. And I think those two words, regardless if you're through Prime America or whatever type of agent you are, PNC, I feel will resonate. It has when I brought it up.
Yeah. And that's phenomenal. And that's to your point too, Jeff, you're not ever bashing term.
Oh, of course.
Like we use term all the time.
Of course.
Like we agree with term 100%. We love term. All we're trying to show them is the idea of exactly what you said is, that permanent life insurance, the question that I put it in this context is, let's see, where is it? Is it possible that cash value life insurance can be beneficial for clients in certain situations? Is it possible that permanent life insurance can be beneficial for clients in certain situations? And if you can get them on that and just say that you get them to say yes, then the entire premise of Primerica falls apart. So that's basically what it comes down. Now, you have to gauge how much Kool-Aid they drink, because you can be wasting your time with a lot of those agents, but there's just so many of them out there that we have to have an answer and be able to have an intelligent conversation with those type of organizations, because we're going to run into them, we're going to talk to them, and you either have to determine from the very beginning, okay, I'm going to try and have this conversation, or they're not even worth my time. But if you can get really pointed and ask those few questions to be able to show them that there is a different path, if they believe that and you get them to understand that, then they'll move.
And they're not involved in investments, are they?
They are.
Oh,
That
they
is,
are.
yeah, that is, so they sell term insurance, they have investments, they do have some annuities as well. But that's where the kind of I'll call the agency owners, the people that are higher up in the hierarchy, that's why they make so money, because there's a much smaller percentage of people that are securities licensed. So every single sale that happens, the way it should happen is that every sale that happens they have the term insurance agent, and it gets paired with the financial advisor, the security license agent. And so they're doing the term insurance, and then the that advisor gets all of the securities business, and the agent doesn't get paid anything on that. So that's why it's extremely lucrative for the people that get to that, that tier where they have their securities license, they're a trainer, they're bringing on other people, because they get tons of assets under management from that.
Here's a question that has a very short answer for you then.
Yeah.
Is it mathematically accurate that like annuities or other investments that they would do the separation, that they would yield or make more money than permanent insurance?
Yes and no. So we are never in the scenario where we are trying to take away any product that's out there.
Sure, of course.
So like with financial products, like there's an absolute fit for them.
100%.
So the premise of that question is off, because we can't.
I guess my question or behind that would be, is there also some belief or expectation that it's just not valuable? Okay, I get that they have the belief that there doesn't have a place, but also, well, these are better options. So not only do we feel that they should be separated, these are just better. Well, if we can then, if it's calculated that, okay, maybe you make X amount, a small smidgen more here, but this is tax-free in different scenarios.
And that's where most agents get into trouble.
Okay.
With your premise, because
Sure.
it's not about the statistical math or the amount. It's
Sure.
about the risk. It's about the what the client's needs are. It's about what the product accomplishes within that financial plan.
Okay.
And that's why a holistic view of agents understanding where finances. I'm going to stop there,
Right. Okay.
because that's a whole different topic.
Sure.
But yes, that's where agents get into trouble though.
Okay.
And that's why Primerica has they're the black sheep of the financial family, because they don't get the other side of planning.
Okay.
They don't understand the risks that they're putting their clients in by not being able to offer other product lines.
Okay.
So that's enough about Primerica. Any other organizations that popped up for anybody?
Well, it hasn't propped up, but there's also Ameriprise.
Ameriprise is a good one. So I am not as familiar with the Ameriprise, but Ameriprise is they're rather a large organization. What do you on your end about Ameriprise, Jeff? What do you know?
The only thing I'm familiar with them is they seem to have their own insurance company. Let me rephrase that. It seems that they put a majority of their business through a company called Resource Life, I think it is.
Gotcha.
And I've never seen them available to anybody outside of Ameriprise. I haven't come across them.
Yeah, I know Ameriprise is more like everything that they do is more internal. Like they have I think Ameriprise has their own their own broker dealer.
So are they just a captive? Or
Yeah, Ameriprise would is more under the captive, and that'd be something. So these are some questions to ask: is if you run into organizations and you find an agent, sometimes it's just beneficial. Like you're not trying to pitch the agent; you just say, "Hey, I just want to learn more about your company," and so ask them questions about that. Because like for me, I don't know much about how Ameriprise works. I'm familiar with the organization itself. Like I know the name, but I don't know actually how the agents operate within there. So I don't know if they have a first right of refusal. I know they have multiple product lines. They do auto and home insurance, but that's what they do. That's not their main focus. Like they're I view them more as an investment shop. Most of them are securities licensed. They sell life insurance. I believe they're captive for the most part. They probably they should have a non-solicit. I don't know if they get contracted with other places and if that's okay. So that would be something to ask those questions. Find one agent and just like I said, you're not pitching them anything. You're just, I want to learn more about Ameriprise. I run into Ameriprise agents all the time. Would love to see, learn a little bit more about how you guys operate. Anybody else know anything about Ameriprise? Like I said, I know they're a big shop. So on that side, I know this might be a little up Jason's alley, but LPL.
That's Jeff Schrader company.
Okay, it's fair enough. So, Jeff, what can you tell us about LPL?
I guess you can kind of title them, they're kind of independent.
They've had some major changes happen over the past few years.
Yeah, from what I know, their branding is LPL, their banner for their investment advisors. But from what I understand, they have the right to negotiate or contract, get appointed with anybody on their own without having to have the good housekeeping seal from LPL.
Yeah, that's what I understand as well. That was one of the major changes that happened. I know there's a lot of people that left LPL. So one of the things that's very super, like you can find LPL shops pretty easy because it's going to be in their disclaimer. Like, so on all of the LPL websites, agency websites at the bottom, because they're getting their financial products from LPL, they all have a disclaimer on it. So they're pretty easy to search for on Google.
What does LPL stand for?
I have no idea what LPL actually stands for. Does anybody actually know what LPL stands for?
No, I don't know what the acronym means. No.
Yeah. And I just know it's LPL Financial. But LPL, so these agents are all securities licensed, every single one of them. So this is it's a broker dealer. So they're all going to be dealing with, do they have minimums on the clients that they're dealing with?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Okay. I was gonna say, I didn't think so either for LPL. But like I said, that typically what they're dealing with is what we call what a lot of places call the right type of client, because the clients that they're dealing with have some money because they're doing some investments and things like that. If they're open to getting contracted with other places, then those are great people to talk to. Talking to LPL agents and saying, hey, we would love to be your outlet for your insurance side.
Okay. Jeff, you had mentioned, like, and again, I apologize if this question is uneducated, but you had mentioned that basically they are welcomed and allowed to get contracted with anyone that has the good housekeeping seal of LPL. Like, so is that like, I'm assuming that you're just meaning anyone that has the support and they say is okay, you can be contracted with. Is there public knowledge or understanding as to who is on that list? Again,
No, the way I stated it is being misunderstood. They do not need the good housekeeping seal of approval to go out and contract with anybody they want.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah,
there's
no first right of refusal or anything like that. It's just they're more under the banner of an independent agent that's using and focusing on the LPL product line.
Got it.
Right. And on the opposite side of that coin is Edward Jones, Robert James. There's a couple others that they are required to go through James and Jones's back room.
Yeah.
For everything in the state licensed area.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Your insurance. So don't concern yourself with those. You'd be
And
it would not be productive.
and with LPL, like I said, I think it was a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago at this point, that LPL radically changed their model where they allowed their made their agents independent. So there's still some turmoil that's happening from that. Even to this day, there's a lot of people that left LPL at that point, but those are things that LPO is a good example because before we started Praxis, we were with a different IMO that we had a RIA division, things like that. We got a lot of business from LPO because it was at that exact time that LPL was saying, hey, you're either going to, you can either go independent now, or you're going to kind of, I think there's like an extremely captive division inside LPL, but they changed all how they were going to do the rules, and there was tons of people that left LPL. So keeping an ear out for some of those changes within organizations, especially large ones like LPL. LPL is, I mean, it's one of the largest broker dealers, if not the largest. It's a huge shop. So there's lots of agents there. Those are great people to capture and talk to as well. But like I said, with their new rule changes, I mean, LPL people, great people to talk to right now. You can get them contracted. You can be their insurance division. That's a great option. On that note, just switching gears, Merrill Lynch. So Merrill Lynch is a little bit different in this context. But I want to mention them just because this is more from an agency's perspective, not necessarily a get them contracted perspective, but just a tidbit for everyone here is Merrill Lynch does not do anything on the insurance side. They don't do fixed index annuities. They don't do life insurance. They don't do IULs. They don't do whole life. They don't do term. They don't do estate planning. That is completely outside the purview of Merrill Lynch. And what I mean, why that's important, just for everyone to understand, is because when you talk to them, you're never going to get them contracted. You're never, most of them are not going to leave or anything like that. But if you're looking for a means that just as an agent, you want more business, talking to a Merrill Lynch side saying, hey, I can be the one that writes your insurance-based business. There are Merrill Lynch shops that are looking for that because they don't do anything. There are a decent amount of Merrill Lynch shops that will look for an agent, a life insurance-based agent, to do all of their fixed products, to do all of the estate planning. So this is more so it's a lead generation tool that you can teach to some agents that are looking for ways to get more business. So this is the way that I would pitch it for you guys. So if you're working with an agent that say, do you have any ideas of how I can generate more leads? Well, do you have any relationships, or do you know anybody, or can you find anybody that's a Merrill Lynch shop? Because that is a Merrill Lynch does not deal with anybody that's making that has $250,000 of assets or less. So all of their clients are wealthy clients. The premium, you write one premium case with them, like we have one of the agents that agencies we work with. They have a really good relationship with a Merrill Lynch rep, and the Merrill Lynch, the entire agency gives all of their life insurance and fixed business to this agent. So what was it, like 7-8 months ago? The agent the Merrill Lynch rep passed off $1 million annuity to the agent. I mean, that's a great piece of business. And because of how their business works, Merrill Lynch reps do typically take 0 splits on that. They can't. If they don't do a split business, they're not asking for a referral fee. They are asking for you to take care of their client.
So they're all securities.
They're all securities. It's strictly securities based. So if you find the Merrill Lynch shop that understands and sees the value of having fixed products and life insurance within the life insurance is a much easier value proposition because all their clients need estate planning. They're looking for larger life insurance policies, things like that. Those are great. That's a great lead generation source for any agents that you're working with.
And can I ask then a very for trying to utilize that and my lack of education, can I ask a very general question?
Yeah.
Do do agencies care about location? Let's just say, like, doesn't matter if they're local or not.
In this day and age, no.
Okay, so it's
If
moving
you
away.
asked me that 3-4 years ago, then I would say it matters a little bit.
Sure.
But if you asked me that 10 years ago, I'd say absolutely. But no, if right now, does not matter at all.
So
Yeah.
we
In
can
our current environment, it's not as significant
Okay.
as it was prior to little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
The biggest thing in that context is relationship. Is just if you can establish a relationship between that Merrill Lynch agency and an agent that you're working with, or even if it's yourself, then that's a win-win for everyone.
Okay.
You as a BDA will get more premium in the house. The agent you're working with has a phenomenal lead generation source, and it's a good fit for everyone. But all right, so let's see. Anybody else?
I guess I have one last general question. Then I have one other person. Are people, when you ask things like that, and I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. When you ask agents or agencies, specifically in this situation, Merrill Lynch, do you have someone you work with that you refer out? Is that like an awkward or bad question? So like I could just go around and literally just Google Merrill Lynch locations and just call every single one of them. Hey, do you have someone that you refer business out, or are you looking to create a partnership? I'd like to help you with that.
And it would be specific refer business out to do your fixed products or or life insurance planning.
Correct. But that would not be a weird conversation. That'd be like, why are you calling me?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
That would be something they're either going to say, no, we're looking. The three answers are going to give is, well, yes, we already have someone, we work with them. Great.
Sure.
No. Then just as a side note, what I would do is ask the Merrill Lynch rep for that person's name.
Okay.
Because you can be the one to offer the contracts.
Sure.
That agent provides. So that's on that side. Yes, I have someone. They say, or they'll say no, but we're looking. Or they might just say no, and that's not something that our agency is even interested in.
Okay.
That's going to be less likely.
Sure.
But yeah, they're great shops to talk about.
Okay.
And then I'm betting World Financial Group.
Yeah.
So
how does it compare to the other one?
So yeah, so the next one and probably the last one we'll talk about, unless everyone has anybody else, is World Financial Group. So has anybody heard of World Financial Group? No. Debbie,
Yeah.
you'll research it.
Exactly. I'll Google it.
So World
They're horrible.
World
horrible
Financial
people.
Group is another. What'd you say, Jason?
They're horrible people.
They're horrible people. Wow.
Yes.
That just all right. So rule number one of talking to any agent is don't tell them they're horrible people.
No, like the way that's set up in the whole program. I mean, I have someone on our team, George, who came from there, and you should hear some of the horror stories about how they treat individuals and all of that. And he says that it's pretty much across the board. So I'm going on secondhand experience.
What Jason and most of these people are good natured. They are not doing this maliciously. It's the structure of the organization itself that creates the environment that the top people make all the money and everyone else below them makes nothing. And everyone thinks that that's okay. And that's the bad part. That's the
correct. I will take that back. The people, I don't know them all, but for the individuals that I have met, they have not been very ethical or honest people either.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. And the structure of their business produces that. So World Financial Group, they have over 50,000 licensed agents. They're one of the another large workforce of agents. So between those just two organizations, that's about 150,000. That's 10% of the entire life insurance license field, because there's about a little over 1.5 million life insurance agents, licensed agents. So that's a lot. But same thing, they are like Primerica, except for they also sell permanent life insurance. So they are not independent agents, but they are brokers. They will call themselves independent agents. It is a lie, because they sign a contract. They're also licensed only agents, which means that they are assigning their book of business and their commissions to the agency. World Financial Group pays them, not the carriers. They don't own their book of business. Their structures, again, it's based off of recruiting to get to higher levels. They start off at anywhere between 25 to 35%. The top contract that you can earn is 65%. If you're writing Transamerica, then it's 82%. Even though Transamerica sucks as a product for their IUL, it's a whole different discussion. They are owned by Transamerica. So that's important to mention. So you're going to see agents, especially this day and age, you'll see some people that say World Financial Group, but you'll see a lot of them say Transamerica. Now note that Transamerica though has a career division and they have this network marketing division. And if you assume that the Transamerica career people are World Financial Group people, they will bite your head off, because the internal Transamerica career division, most of them do not like the World Financial Group side, because it's an extremely different model. Yeah, the four things that I always talk about with anybody in network marketing is talking about their book of business, that they don't own it. And actually, did you read your contract? No, you haven't read your contract. Then you need to read through it, because it says in there that you do not own that book of business. And also then talk about the non-solicit. The second thing is that I always talk about is the amount of products and carriers that they have access to. So for example, yes, you're a broker. You guys have, World Financial Group has multiple carriers, lots of different carriers. I think they have over 50 carriers. But you can bring up, AIG Partners Group as an example. World Financial Group does not have AIG Partners Group. So if I were to show you that AIG Partners Group is a good fit for some of your clients and you wanted to write it, do you know right now, Mr. World Financial Group agent, if you can do that? And they'll be like, well, yeah, I think I could. Like, no, you can't. Okay. It says so in your contract. That would break your contract. They would terminate you if they found out that you were writing business outside of their chain. And that's a big no-no. So they are a captive agent, even though they're going to call themselves independents. So that's the second thing, is about the products and carriers that they have access to. Third thing is with expertise. So, and you can ask them, so right now, if you were to break up the amount of training that you do, how much is it on recruiting and how much is it on actually on products and sales and things like that? And they're probably going to say most of it's on recruiting. But they'll be like, well, I have a field trainer. We go out and split cases and stuff like that, which is great. And, but expertise wise, we can, you with everyone here, even you, Debbie, getting access to a vet, can all say, well, we can provide you much larger training portfolio to teach you how these products work and how to structure them and how to sell better, basically, because they don't do a lot of that. And then the fourth and final thing is just your commission structure. Again, every single agent that comes on board there, we can offer them a higher level commission, and they can still create a downline hierarchy. Most of them are taught that they can't do that if they're an independent agent, that you can't create an agency or things like that. The other thing you can always ask them, especially if they're newer, is how they feel about giving up their first 3 sales. Because their first 3 sales, even the sale they write on themselves, they do not earn any dollars on. You can also ask them how they feel about the exchange leg. So this is thank you, David. That was a great look. So in exchange leg in network marketing, in Primerica, World Financial, PHP, almost every network marketing company does that, is when you achieve a certain level in the organization, you are going to take the strongest exchange, the strongest leg that you have, that's doing the most production, and you are going to give it to your upline.
Wait, what?
Yes. So you're going to take, so for example, I'll give you a direct example. When I was in World Financial Group, I had, within 2 years, we had over 200 licensed agents. And through that, I achieved what's called the Senior Marketing Director position. And so my strongest leg, which his name was Virgil. Virgil was my strongest leg. He had about 60 agents out of the organization. He was doing a lot of production.
60 of your 200?
60 of my 200 came from Virgil and his entire team. When I achieved Senior Marketing Director, I had to give Virgil to my upline, and I lost all of his production, and I lost all of it, all of his agents. Now, they assume that that's just how the industry works when you achieve certain promotion levels. It is not, as you very well know. Now, the benefit is the idea is it's called the loyalty principle, is that since I did it, anybody that now is under me that I train and develop, when they achieve that level, they're going to give me their strongest leg. So if I created 5 people that did that, then I would get 5 for giving up 1, is the concept. But that is a foreign construct within the independent channel. And most agents within those network marketing companies assume that it's something that happens everywhere because that's what they were taught. Most of the vast majority of all the agents that are in these organizations are brand new agents. As in the only place that they know for the most part is what Primerica taught them, is what World Financial Group taught them. So that taints the rest of the image of everything that they know about captive agencies, independent agency, places like Wella Financial or Wealth Protection Partners or anything like that. They don't understand that side because they've only been taught from the very beginning that the World Financial Group model, the Primerica model, is the best model that's out there. So anyways, got my soapbox there for a second, but that's so when I mean the exchange leg is you can ask them is, that question of, well, how do you feel about the exchange leg? And are you aware that in the rest of the industry, nobody else does that? That only happens in network marketing. So if you came into the independent channel, you would never have to give up your strongest leg. That's just a.
So when that happens, you're giving up all your rights to those producers?
Yep.
Compensation, the whole thing?
Compensation, overrides, bonuses.
I mean, I guess, so how long does it take for you to build people up to the level to have them exchange to you?
It depends. I mean, you can do it as quick as like 3 to 6 months. Well, you can do it as quick as 3 months.
Did you stay long enough to get anybody exchanged to you after you gave up your guy?
Once I hit that level, the proverbial SHIT hit the fan. My upline manager was caught with fraud.
Okay.
And was terminated with cause from the organization, and took the team that I just exchanged him plus about a third of my other team and left to a different organization. And they rewrote a bunch of the business that they wrote over the past year. And it was insane. That was exit stage left. I was already on my way out actually, because at that point I had met, my business partner, Ken McCreary. And Ken was in the independent channel. I met him through his dad, and we tried to recruit each other back and forth. And I realized, the independent channel is actually, we can build the same structure out in the independent channel. That's when we started our own agency. But yeah, that was fun times.
So what happens when you talk to these people about compensation and you say, well, yeah, I can give you higher compensation. They're like, well, what's your compensation? You say, 95%. Well, that's what I get. Well, no, I thought you guys only get like 60. Well, what the bonuses?
Yes.
So what are the bonuses, and why does everyone always say, oh, well, that's what I get?
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of people say, I have 152% contract. You don't have 152% contract. What they're calculating is all the potential bonuses that they can get from the organization. So when you get to 65%, once you get to the senior marketing director position, even if you bring someone up at the same level, you are always going to override them on, it's about 17% that you get.
Okay.
So there's other bonuses that come along with that. But if you build, what they're counting is there's structures that you build like 3 or 5 legs or something like that. So you take 5 legs times 17, that's like 82%. What is that? 35, 50, 85%. So that's 85% that they're counting as bonuses, that when I have that many people, there's other team bonuses and higher things that you get and stuff like that. At one level, you can get private jet miles. Oh yeah, it's at the highest level you get, what is it, 1% or point something of the entire organization. And so there's bonuses that they count within that of what Jake's talking about is, that's where you have to separate the contract level and the bonuses. And literally you can do the math is, the only reason they're able to do this is because you have such a low contract. What if you were able to keep more of that money and you were able to determine what you wanted to do with it, or your agents, could spend that on anything that they want to, rather than World Financial Group determining when you're going to get that money. And the other thing is, if you're dealing with anybody that has a team, is just ask them about, going to Jason's point, is just ask them how they feel about the ethical nature of how little money their agents are making. Because anybody that has a team, they care about their team for the most part. They want them all to succeed, but they're conditioned that they're only allowed to talk to the people that are successful. And they have plenty of people on their team that are never going to recruit anybody to the organization. That's not how they're driven. That's not what their focus is. So literally those people will be stuck at a 25, 35% contract, and you can't live off of a 25, 35% contract.
Are we able to talk to them, or is it ethical to talk to them about bringing their team over?
Oh yeah. Now it technically breaks the rules, but there's no way that they can actually truly stop it. The only way that they can stop it is if someone on the team decided, oh no, I am completely loyal to World Financial Group, or my upline's upline.
Sure.
And they're trying to steal me away, and I'm going to, put in a written note to World Financial Group saying so-and-so is trying to solicit me from business. But most of the people, like I said, it's driven off a relationship, which is why almost no one does that unless you're pissed off your whole team.
Sure.
But got on my soapbox there for a second. That's World Financial Group agents. So really quick, I know we went a little all over the place, but quick recap. We went over a bunch of organizations and agencies, and some of the things that you can talk to them about. One of the, I'm not going to, we're not going to do a review. We don't have time for it, but just one of the things that I want everyone to get from this conversation is ask questions, and think of some of the questions that we talked about and about their organizations. And really it's finding that you can just find one person. You're not going to pitch them. You're just going to have a conversation. You just want to build a relationship and say, hey, I would love to learn how XYZ place works. And most people are going to be extremely upfront about how that is. And you just have to ask the right questions. So you guys have first right of refusal. Are you guys able to write business outside of where you're at? Can you get contracted with carriers outside of what you're doing? And the more you know about that, the more the the agency world opens up to you of conversations you're able to have, because there is on two sides. One, there's so much business that is happening, and it just happens to be not through you. And all you're trying to do is just capture a piece of that, of the business that's already happening. The second piece of it is are opportunities of business that is not happening, that if you provided the opportunity for that business to happen, then it would. And that would happen through you as well. So examples of both those fields is, for example, Northwestern Mutual agents, they're writing business. many of them are working with other places and referring that business out or getting contract with carriers so that they can make sure that they're servicing their clients. That is business that is already happening. You're just putting your foot in the door and saying, hey, I can provide the answer to that. On the other side, you have places like PNC agencies or Merrill Lynch shops that aren't doing any of that other side of the business, or who else am I thinking of? I mean, State Farm places, all those people that aren't doing any of the business in the independent channel, that if you just show them the way and say, hi, I can give you access, that we can provide that solution, that they would start doing that business. So that's really what the two areas that we're trying to grab hold of within what we're talking about. And the more you understand the nature of different agencies and different agents that you're talking to, just like I was referencing within the federal employee marketplace yesterday on the webinar, it's just language. And there's certain terminologies that if you pick up on that language, then you sound more of an expert from day one, which means they're like, oh, you actually know my business. You understand me. And that's why I would like to do business with you. So that's what this activity was really for. We'll probably do another one of these. I'll make it a little bit more formatted next time, but want to have an open discussion about a lot of the agencies and places that are out there and some of the things that I know about them. I know you guys know a lot about different places as well, but hopefully that was helpful to everyone. With that said,
Thank you.
any last minute questions before we wrap up and get off? Debbie, you okay over there?
Doing well.
Sounds good. I will say, because Jake took notes, I'll send a document over with notes to everyone so that you guys have it from the stuff that we took down. But on that recording will be up later this afternoon in the Praxis page if you want to take tidbits from that. On that, everyone have a phenomenal rest of their day. Have a great weekend if we don't talk. And don't forget, sorry, last plug in. 2 weeks from now, Washington CARES Act. So I'll remind everyone next week, but real quick, does anyone know what's happening with Washington CARES Act and like other things that are potentially coming down the pipeline from federally and other states?
Generally.
What was that?
Generally.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, there's some crazy, like the long-term care industry over the next 2 to 5 years could radically be different if some of this stuff comes out. And from a business development advisor perspective, we need to be the ones to talk to agents about this, because agents are not informed about what's happening. They're not keeping their ear to the ground. And for example, and I'm kind of stealing some of the thunder from 2 weeks, but California right now, and there is a ruling that they are trying to come out with to do something like Washington. And from what I'm hearing from long-term care people and experts in that field is that policies need to be in before the ruling is signed, not before they start the ruling. So if you have anybody in California that is doing Debbie, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, you should make sure that a vet is on this next one. But anybody in California that is writing a long-term care policy or is writing long-term care or thinking about writing long-term care, create a sense of urgency to get that done. We don't know when the ruling is going to be signed, but that business of long-term care needs to be done sooner rather than later, because that's when the exemption for having long-term care would be able to be applied, is before the ruling is signed, not after. So if you know anybody in California, any agent, just have them on that the Washington CARES Act webinar in 2 weeks. It'll be extremely informative. This is a great way to write some business and get some stuff going in the long-term care field.
And to that end, the two carriers you can talk to them about are going to be Nationwide and Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah.
Those are going to be ones that are going to help.
Well, and there's a few others.
I mean, there's a few others. But
One America.
All options that you can utilize.
What's up, Jake? Not cool, Jake.
If you were here more frequently, I would include you
Ouch.
You should say One America first and then the other ones.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. One America and then Nationwide and Mutual of Omaha. But One America.
There you go.
It's 11 o'clock, guys. I want to get you out of here, but get people on that webinar. That's going to be a really good one that I'm excited about and have a conversation with. So have a great day. Have a great weekend. David, I will
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Orientation, David.
All right.
All right. Bye, everyone. See ya.
Go on.